Just, it starts with credibility from the beginning.
Thank you.
Because it was so very different. The Lace Reader, what is this? And then you're giving us a guide, so I could say, okay, I get it. Even though I really didn't get it till the end, but okay. Our viewers have heard me read. Would you read an excerpt for us?
Sure, I would love to. And I'm glad you read the beginning because it gave a little bit of an introduction. I'm going to read from chapter 2, which was my original chapter 1, but that's neither here nor there. Chapter 2. When the phone call comes in, I am dreaming of water, not the warm blues and greens of these California beach towns where I live now, but the dark New England Atlantic of my youth. In my dream, I am swimming to the moon. Like all dreams, it seems logical. The idea that there is no pathway between sea and moon never occurs. I swim my own combination, part breaststroke, part drown proofing, slow and purposeful, a rhythm remembered from another lifetime. The movement is all efficiency, with just nose, ears, and eyes protruding above the water, mouth submerged. With each forward stroke, tiny waves of salt enter my open mouth, then recede again as I slow, mirroring the larger surrounding ocean. I swim for a long time, past Salem Harbor and the swells, past any sight of land at all. I swim until the sea becomes still and clear, too calm to be any real ocean. The light from the full dream moon etches a clear path on black water, a road to follow. There is no sound save my own breath, slow and steady as I swim. This was once my sister's dream. Now it is only mine.
What I like is that you give us the sensations. You give us taste. So we're tasting the salt water as she swims. You're giving us the feel of the ocean against her body as she swims. We see the colors, the blues, the greens. We're aware of the moon. It's all these sensory input, which I find the book is very much giving us a lot of sensory input. And myself as the reader, I felt like I had to decide how to put it all together.
Oh,
so you were telling me right
sense.
from the beginning, and especially since you said that was your original first chapter. So thanks for that insight.
Thank you.
Good.
That's great.
As I understand it, you made 2 submissions of the Lace Reader to publishers, and then you said, wait, we're going to do this on our own through an independent press, Flapjacket Press. Tell us, do I have the story right?
It was actually 2 agents that I sent it to early on. And basically both of them said send it back when it's finished. And it wasn't. It wasn't. It was, a few chapters kind of thing. And then there was a period where I thought it needs work. It was even, after that I had finished. It took 5 years to do the first draft. And I was doing, of course, other things. But I connected with a man named Tom Jenks, who is an editor. And he's quite a famous editor. He runs Narrative Magazine. .com, and he worked on the Paris Review. He edited Hemingway's last book after Hemingway died. He put together American Short Story Classics with Raymond Carver, and he's just wonderful. And he was teaching a class in Boston, and I decided I needed to workshop this, because I had friends in LA who I workshopped with when I worked on screenplays, but I never had workshopped a novel. So I sent it to him, and he basically called me and said, I'd love to work privately with you. I think this is very interesting, and I want to see where it's going. So he worked with me, and I found that this was all written from Towner's point of view in the beginning. And because she's an unreliable narrator at best, and crazy, and she tells you she's crazy, it didn't let the reader in quite enough, so he suggested adding points of view. So I did. I added Rafferty's point of view. And he said, he's your best character. And I said, well, he's a male character. This is my first book. I'm not quite confident. He said, he's good. Go with it. Okay. So I did. And it took another 2 years of writing. In fact, I quit my job at that time and said, I've just got to work on this. And my husband went, oh, great. But it worked out. And then in the end of the time, since we had a software publishing company, we thought it would be just a small leap to publish a book and start an independent press, which Gary started, that's my husband, called Flapjacket Press. And so we just thought, well, we'll just do what we did with software. We'll test it with book clubs, we'll do all sorts of things like that, and then we'll do a local book that maybe will get picked up for distribution from a larger publisher.
Oh, so you were thinking about that from the beginning?
We were, and we thought we would keep this local, North Shore, basically, just this area of Massachusetts, and test it as we would with a software product. And that's what we've done with software. We got ours. The software was picked up by Random House first, and then eventually by Hasbro. So we just thought we'll do the same thing. Well, it's very different with a book, and we didn't know how different, but we were so lucky because we brought it out, and we tested with book clubs first, and we in a local bookstore in Marblehead, and they gave us, all sorts of feedback and help, and they connected us with a public relations company, who then sent the book to Publishers Weekly, and we got a starred review.
That was your super break.
That was the first big break. And when that happened, the strangest thing happened. It wasn't the publishers started calling, it was that Hollywood agents started calling. And I didn't know any of them, but I thought, well, I've worked enough in Hollywood that I don't want to just sign up with someone and have a script option for years as I had before. I had not had one produced, but I'd had one option 4 times. So,
oh my goodness.
So this is what I didn't want to get into again. So I called friends in Hollywood who were screenwriters. One in particular who's quite good, Alexandra Saros is her name, and she said, I'd love to read your book. And she read it and said, I'm going to give it to Endeavor, which is her agency in Hollywood. And she said, I'll give it to the books to movie person there and see what they think. Well, he read it and called up and said, I love the book, but who's this Flapjacket Press? I don't find you anywhere. And we said, well, we confessed, it's us.
Right.
And he said, well, that's not a good idea. If you want to get a good deal in Hollywood, which we weren't really thinking about.
Right,
but he said, would you mind if we sent it back to New York to our publishing arm? And we said, would you mind? That was our goal ultimately anyway. So they did, and Rebecca Oliver, who's my agent now, called within just a few days and said, I love this book, we're putting it out to auction. And they did, and I think it was 3 days that we stayed in the house and just took calls from and offers from 5 major publishers, and I got to choose mine. I chose William Morrow, HarperCollins.
I mean, this is such an extraordinary story that you started an independent press, you worked with book clubs, you made the book. I mean, I just thought this was a terrific book, and then your book goes to auction. I mean, unbelievable.
It's unusual, I think. We went down to HarperCollins after the deal was made, and we had a nice little champagne toast and all sorts of things. We met all the people that I'd been talking to on the phone. And my husband said, how many books have you done this way, have you bought that were self-published? And they said, this is the only one. So it doesn't happen that often. But, I hope it happens more often for people.
Well, you have to tell us then, did you use your agent then to figure out, is this the best contract for me? I mean, when you had these different proposals coming through, did you seek legal advice? My viewers hopefully will be in this position sometime, and maybe they can learn from your experience.
We did. We have an attorney in LA who was recommended by the screenwriter that I initially talked to.
Okay.
So we did. We talked to them, but when we were in initial bids from the companies, that was at the contract stage. But in the bids, I was just choosing who I thought the editor I could work the best with would be, because they sat and made presentations. All of the companies, what they would do for marketing, where they saw me as a writer. What the editor would do to change the book, because that was huge to me. I wanted to know what they wanted.
So you went to these different offices, or?
No, they called on the phone, and I took copious notes and just tried to keep everyone straight. But when the final bids were coming in, I was still on the phone with William Morrow, and my agent's calling on the other line saying, get off the phone. So it was, I was leaning in that direction because I loved everything they said. And in fact, Lisa Gallagher was calling from Heathrow, where she was waiting to catch a
Now
remind
plane. Us, Lisa
and she's the head of William Morrow Publishing.
Okay.
So.
Wow. A lot of congratulations here. It also, your book, has been translated into 25 languages.
It has. It is undergoing the translation process as we speak.
Viewers,